Hey everybody, this is Kimberly, anti-diet coach, holistic nutritionist, and self-empowerment aficionado, and you're listening to the Love Your Naked Ass podcast, the show that helps women just like you ditch their diets, kick their inner critic to the curb, and make peace with their bodies so they can focus on what's important in life, living it. Let's get started. Hey everyone. Welcome back. I'm so happy to have you here for another episode of Love Your Naked Ass. Today, we are going to talk about the 3 reasons why diets suck and what to do instead. Let's be clear. I'm not a fan of diets, and I will never say that I am. They're usually over-restrictive, super rule-heavy, and when push comes to shove and we all fall off the wagon because, let's face it, most people do, we feel worse, right? We end up beating ourselves up. We potentially regain the weight, our self-esteem plummets, our self-confidence takes a nosedive. We kind of feel like losers because we can't follow a plan. So we start to question ourselves. At the end of the day, diets make us feel like shit. So here's the reality. And I want to make sure that you hear this. The number 1 reason why diets suck is because your body is unique. Let me say that again. Your body is unique, which means what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. Listen, most diets are created to fit the masses, right? And the odds are that if you followed the plan to a T, some women should see some success. But what all diets don't consider is that their plan could actually do more harm than good. Let me tell you a story. So I want to talk about Ginny. Ginny came to me years ago after she had finished a New Year's cleanse. You know, it's January. The New Year's resolutions are flying. We all have the best of intentions. And typically you see a slew of new cleanses out come the first of the year. And Ginny was like every other woman who decided I overindulged through the holidays and I really need to get my ass in gear, right? So she took on this 10-day challenge, took on this 10-day cleanse with gusto. She had super high hopes, and she followed the regimen exactly the way it was laid out. And she was excited because this was the first time in ever that she's ever tried a diet that she actually followed it to the science, to a T. But the problem is at the end of the 10-day challenge, she wasn't very excited. In fact, she was a little disappointed. No, she was a lot disappointed, let's be clear. All the other women in the group were raving about how they felt, how their energy was soaring, how they felt lighter and they lost weight and their skin looked better. And here was Ginny, wondering why the first time she ever followed through on a diet plan, she gained weight, felt like shit. Her face looked dull, and she had this weird red itchy rash on her body, and it seemed to be getting worse. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with cleanses, but typically it involves eliminating a lot of different food groups, potentially, and it's pretty strict, right? Sometimes it's drinking all liquids, sometimes it's eating what we call clean foods, which I definitely put in air quotes, because that requires something to be clean or dirty, right? But in this case, this particular cleanse that Ginny was on, it eliminated sugar, dairy, and gluten. Okay, I get it. And they had very limited amounts of protein. It was really heavy on like vegetables, specifically raw vegetables, nuts, seeds, and they were allowed to have things like eggs, low-fat chicken, and low-mercury fish. Now, what you need to know is that Ginny was not a fish eater, ever. And she wasn't going to start now. So she really stuck to her raw veggies, nuts and seeds, and then eggs. Now, after we did a deep dive into what she was eating before she started the cleanse, and obviously before the holidays, what I would call, or she would call, her normal eating pattern, and then what she ate during the cleanse, what I noticed is she rarely, if ever, ate eggs. And actually nuts for that matter. So it got me thinking, Is she sensitive or allergic to eggs and nuts? Specifically almonds, because that's what she was eating in abundance of. And sure enough, after a week of no nuts and no eggs, what did we see? The rash disappeared, her skin looked more radiant, and her energy levels were slowly coming back up. Now, we did add back in an ample amount of protein, some cooked vegetables, and even whole grains. Oh my God, shocking. We can eat whole grains, folks. Not everyone's allergic. And here's what happened. She actually started feeling better. And she lost a few pounds, not even thinking about it. And she was just really thankful that she didn't need to be so strict. And of course, she was super elated that it wasn't her who messed up, that it was actually the diet that did her harm. Because like I said, for the first time, she was super proud that she followed through with something. The problem was she was not following through with a plan that worked for her body, because her body was unique. And because she never had eaten a ton of eggs and almonds, it never had affected her in the same way that it did during that specific cleanse. So what's my point? The point of the story is just because a plan tells you to eat it doesn't mean it's right for your body. It's your job to pay attention to how your body is processing what you eat and how you treat it. So listen to your body. It's actually highly intuitive if you give it half a chance. If Ginny would have just focused on listening to what her body was telling her, instead of following the plan, hoping it would work, she would have realized that the loose stools she was experiencing, the headaches, the stomach aches, and the weird rash was all coming from something that she was eating. But she was so hyper-focused on being successful and following the plan to receive the results that she was promised, she never even took notice to those symptoms. So remember, your body is unique. Listen to it. Make adjustments when necessary, and be patient with your goals. The second reason I hate diets is because it literally steals the joy out of eating. Now, as most of you already know, I suffered from anorexia and orthorexia. And for those of you who don't know what orthorexia is, stay tuned, because I have an episode just all about that and for you specifically. But for now, know that it's when you put a heavy emphasis on clean eating. Essentially, what you do is you obsess over eating only healthy food. So, oh my God, a piece of birthday cake does not fit into that realm at all. In fact, it's a no-no. Because when you get so obsessed about eating healthy, that's all you think about. You label food as good or bad. And that's it. So when you become obsessed with only eating good food, what you deem bad, you can't touch. And if you do, it becomes such an anxiety-ridden problem that it affects you mentally, emotionally, and physically. Believe me, I have a story to tell you about that. What ends up happening is if you get so obsessed with this healthy eating, not only do you have that huge amount of anxiety like I just talked about, but it also causes you to retaliate against your body. For someone like myself, that was over-exercising. So if I ate something that was deemed bad, not only did I obsess over it, lose sleep over it, but I literally, if I could, would exercise that night because I thought, I got to burn off those bad calories. Or I would exercise extra the next morning. Or I would skip a meal. All of these things, right? I was beating myself up. And the suckiest part about this was that I literally avoided any kind of gathering that included food of any kind because I couldn't deviate from the healthy plate. Honestly, it's a total mindfuck. On one hand, you're eating nutritious food and you think, wow, that's awesome. But on the other hand, it becomes so obsessive, it turns into yet another eating disorder. And what could have been an amazing way to connect with others literally becomes your number one fear. And you stop going out. You stop creating plans. You literally shut out people you care about because, oh my, if it involves food, that's not going to be a good thing. But what if food was just food? Seriously, what if there was really nutritious food and less nutritious food? What would happen if you actually enjoyed that piece of cake and wait for it, let it go? Just some food for thought. And yes, very much pun intended. The last reason I hate diets is because they take away what we want most, and that's freedom. But not only that, they turn you into a robot. Think about this. Diets are the polar opposite of freedom. Diets literally take away your choices and help turn your brain off. Why? Because it literally outlines what you should eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and potentially your snacks, and then alludes to the fact that if you deviate from that plan, you've failed. Can you see a pattern here? Of course, this is my opinion, but all diets are mindfucks. I get that they have the best of intentions. The person who created the diet wasn't in that creation mode thinking it was going to harm people, because obviously it worked for them. But what they forgot to consider is how it affects everybody else. So what do we do instead? Now, I'm not saying you can never want to lose weight. I've helped many women do just that, but we don't start by manipulating the food. We start by disrupting the mind and then learning to listen to the body. And if weight loss is supposed to happen, it naturally occurs. So if you're ready for that kind of breakthrough, then I'm going to invite you to schedule a 30-minute complimentary Love Your Naked Ass intro session. So that's it, folks. Until next week, remember, you are worthy because you exist, period. All right, that's it for this week's episode of Love Your Naked Ass. I want to thank you for being here with me, and I can't wait to chat with you next week. If you love this podcast, hit subscribe, tap to rate, or drop me a review. And be sure to follow me over on Instagram at Kimberly Riggins and join my free Facebook group, The Happy Healthy Body. Again, I'm Kimberly Riggins, signing off, wishing you peace, love, wine, and of course, an abundance of chocolate. I'll see you next time.